Welcome back to research methodology class. This discussion is actually a continuation of the same topic I started in the previous session, in which I introduced you to a few concepts and ideas which you must bear in mind while starting your research. Today I'll be talking about those sources which are very helpful for you when you are searching for an appropriate, suitable, acceptable, valuable topic for your research. At the start of research, this is a very crucial stage, especially the novice researchers who do not have any prior research experience start wondering about where to find a topic for their research, and it causes them a lot of panic and anxiety. They seem to be finding no clue to the secret of finding a research topic. So today's discussion is very useful for all of you to pay attention to, understand, and then certainly implement in your academic activities. Remember, research is not only about writing something for the sake of securing your degree. In your coursework, sometimes you're given assignments or you're asked to write a term paper. While doing these activities, you can utilize these principles and ideas I'm going to discuss, and you'll realize how beneficial and useful they actually are. So let's get started and look at those sources of topics which are very important for you to rely on and use at the start of your research. So basically, these are three sources: experiences, reading, and internet surfing. In other words, I would say all research that is being conducted around us comes from one of these three sources. The other researchers you find working on different ideas derive their ideas from the same sources we are going to deal with here in this discussion. So be attentive and follow all the points very carefully. First of all, let's talk about experiences. And here, experiences include both personal and interpersonal experiences. Personal experiences mean those experiences which the researcher himself has gained from his life. And not all the experiences of any human being are important enough to be researched. So you will only revise your stock of experiences and determine only those which you find unusual, novel, perplexing, which means experiences which demand your attention, for which you do not have a ready-made explanation or answer. So in order to understand and investigate those experiences at greater length, you convert them into a topic. You use them as a topic for your research in order to expand your own knowledge on those issues. So first of all, one thing that you must remember, research is a very much human activity. It is grounded in our experiences, which means your experiences, although they may not sound very important for you, but at the end of the day, they do hold a lot of importance. And in everyday life, most of the time we encounter perplexing, disturbing issues and questions that we ignore. We do not think carefully about these issues because inwardly and psychologically we are not willing to devote our time and spend our energies on unearthing the deeper aspects of those issues. So what we do is we ignore them, we dismiss them as insignificant. But when you start your formal studies and you're expected to write something scholarly and serious, you need to change your very temperament. Now you need to think about things carefully and deeply in order to understand their different aspects which we usually overlook. Secondly, personal experiences also include academic and professional experiences. Experiences that you have gained while studying or while performing in workplace. So there are many things that you come across on daily basis, but again you do not deal with them and you do not spend a lot of time trying to explain and elaborate those things. But sometimes these experiences, the questions and issues that you encounter in your personal, academic or professional life are important enough to be studied in greater detail. For instance, here I have just mentioned an example from classroom life. Suppose you're a teacher dealing with students on everyday basis. So if you try to focus on your activities as a teacher and performance of your students, the very setting of education, there are dozens of things which still need to be researched and studied in detail. You can analyze yourself as a teacher and improve yourself, improve your performance by determining your flaws and strengths. Similarly, if you look at your students, their comfort or discomfort with certain subjects, their excellence or failure in certain subjects, you need to analyze things and come up with satisfactory answers. to explain the reasons for whatever is happening. If something like a learning or teaching practice or activity or method is working for students or not, it needs to be examined. But since we have this casual attitude towards our own performance and the performance of the people around us, we mostly ignore the importance of analysis, self-analysis and analysis of others' performance. The point here is, let me simplify it in a few words. Your personal, academic and professional experiences sometimes are important enough to become a research topic. So what you need to do is just look back on your own experiences and try to locate something that you think is workable enough. Next is interpersonal experiences, which means experiences that we gain by interacting with other people, from socializing, from discussing things with our friends, colleagues or people in general. Here I just want to give you two examples from solid research where a complete research article or a very serious essay is based on interpersonal experiences. First, I have mentioned Dr. Raja's article on Pakistani English novel. Now, Dr. Raja, whose full name is Dr. Masood Ashraf Raja, he is originally from Pakistan but currently settled in America. He is an experienced post-colonial scholar teaching in University of North Texas. Now, he has published an article with the title Pakistani English Novel, The Burden of Representation and Horizon of Expectations. In the beginning of his essay, he mentions how the seeds of this article, how the very foundation of this article actually came from his interaction with audiences. When he came back to Pakistan and delivered a few talks on different subjects to different people, the people generally asked him similar questions about their reservations on representation of Pakistan and Pakistani society in the works of those writers who are originally from Pakistan but currently settled in other countries. So these native readers, these people from Pakistan, found representation of Pakistan by these writers, these diasporic writers, problematic and questionable. So he started reading around this topic and then produced this article. The idea is that this article actually came from not the researcher himself directly, because the idea was not initially conceived by him. Rather, it is somehow the contribution of his audiences who suggested this idea, and then he found it important enough to write on it in great detail. Secondly, we have a Nigerian novelist, Chinua Achebe. Again, he mentions how he encountered a student and discussed a few things. After that, he actually wrote an essay on Joseph Conrad's novel Heart of Darkness, talking about how Conrad's representation of Africa and Africans is racist, shows his racial prejudice against those people. So both of these articles owe their existence to the public, to the people with whom the writers interacted, discussed things. Similar is true for anyone else. If you discuss things with your friends, classmates, colleagues, teachers, during these discussions you might discover an idea that you think is interesting enough to be made a research topic. Next we have topics from your own reading, and in this reading I have mentioned four categories: theories, and then previous studies, library searches, and non-academic texts. I'll be explaining all these one by one. So first of all, theories. A theory is an organized body of concepts, generalizations, and principles that can be investigated. In simple words, theory is a body of organized ideas. And since the ideas are abstract and general, we use them in a different setting to explain a literary text, for instance. And I'll be talking about application of theory in literary research in our upcoming discussions. But one thing that I would explain here is reading theories, ideas from other scholars is something that you cannot escape. So you need to expand your reading, develop greater stamina of reading things, because when you conduct your research, you're expected to apply a certain theory to your research. Here I just want to give you an example from a theory of psychology. A psychologist, Jean Piaget's theory of child cognitive development, how a child's brain develops and improves as he matures. So he gives 4 stages of this development: sensory motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete stage, and formal stage. Now let's suppose, if you're familiar with the ideas of Jean Piaget and you know this theory very well, how he explains a child's cognitive development, and then you are reading a certain text where you have a child character whose cognitive development is narrated by the writer. So you can use this theory to explain and illustrate that child character in that text. So this is what we call applying a theory to a text. You use ideas from a certain theorist and relate them to your own analysis of a certain text and open up new meanings which are not obvious to an ordinary reader who is not familiar with this theory. So your interpretation actually uh, enriches, it becomes uh, you know insightful when you apply a theory and discover a range of new meanings in the text. This is simply offering a new perspective on the text, a new angle on it. And then we have previous studies. Now, there is one thing I must explain before going into the details of this point. Reading is certainly the backbone of your research. You read things and then you utilize ideas from others in your own analysis. But here, by previous studies, I mean conducting a research that is similar to the one already done by somebody else, which we in research terminology call replication study or replication research. Now, a replication research, if you look at the definition, is a repetition of a study using different subjects to retest its hypothesis. So what, as a researcher conducting a replication study, you are doing is you use different participants, different context to retest the findings of an earlier researcher. And this study will reveal how valuable or how objective the findings of the earlier researcher are, because with the difference of participants or context, the findings may vary. So in replication research, as the name itself signifies, you use tools and methods employed by the earlier researcher to a different setting, to a different group of subjects, and then you see if your study produces the same results and findings which the earlier study did. So what you are doing is you test the applicability of findings and results in similar situations. But it might appear to you that a person conducting replication study does not contribute much. He is using something that is already available. So it is more like copying something and then taking credit for it. But it is not like that. Replication study has its own significance, because even in replication research, the researcher has to put a lot of effort and spend substantial time to conduct and complete this research. So he is not simply using the same things. He alters some features of the research to stretch the original findings or move beyond them. So this effort and this activity that the researcher performs contributes to the already existing knowledge. It either confirms the strength of findings of earlier research or proves against it. So replication research has its own importance if it is understood very well and conducted in accordance with the principles of a replication study. Third, we have library searches, that you go to a library and start reading. And you know, library searches are most useful when you have actually identified your topic, because libraries are full of books. So it becomes practically very difficult to find a topic through library. If you do not have an initial idea and you want to do everything in the library, things are going to be very problematic. Now, considering this, what is advisable for a beginner especially is to identify a certain topic and then go to the library and read according to your own choice of topic. This way you will be able to focus on a limited section of the library instead of simply reading without a clue. So if you keep reading without having a clear idea about the topic and your general subject area or your area of interest, it's more like looking for a needle in a haystack, which means it is almost next to impossible to find a topic if you do not have any idea about what you actually want to do. Next we have non-academic texts. Now, non-academic texts are those texts which are mostly not based on serious scholarship. So these are magazines, newspapers, or institutional websites generally. Some of the articles published in magazines and newspapers can be research articles, sort of. See, the very format actually do not allow you to follow the conventional practices of research. You write down your own opinion, but you do not document your sources. You do not follow certain guidelines and formalities, because there is no scope for these things in a magazine or newspaper. If you are writing for the sake of research, you will certainly get your article published in a research journal rather than magazine or newspaper. But despite that, these non-academic texts are important because sometimes they provide you information about those topics which are currently being discussed and debated in society. So these are hot topics, topics which are not much researched. So what you need to do is, if you go through these magazines and newspapers, you can come across an idea that might attract your attention, and then what you can do is you take that idea, study around it extensively, and develop your own argument about it. And certainly if you are doing research, you can make it a research topic. Last, in this discussion on main sources of topics, I want to discuss electronic mailing lists, internet surfing. See, the use of internet is a huge tool, a hugely useful source for research in modern times. and I'll talk about it in detail in our upcoming discussions. But here, just for the sake of concluding this list of sources of topics, let me guide you about electronic mailing lists and how they can be used to find a topic. So electronic mailing lists are actually a platform available online. You use your email to seek advice and feedback from peers and experts in a field. So there are certain electronic mailing lists that you subscribe to. For instance, Listserv, which is run by Lsoft International, and it is designed to facilitate communication between members of an organization or special interest groups. So if you subscribe to an electronic mailing list, you can access very easily people sitting in many parts of the world who are experts of your field. I mean, otherwise it would be difficult to get in touch with these people. But through this platform, you can, in a way, talk to these people sitting at a huge distance from you in other countries. So this platform provides you an easy access to interact and communicate with these people who certainly have a lot of experience in the field, or who are serious about their profession. And once you've subscribed to this mailing list, you will receive announcements and bulletins related to your area of interest. You can specify the area you want to receive announcements and bulletins about. So they'll be sending you emails and informing you about what is happening. See, through these mailing lists, you can actually keep yourself updated on what is currently being discussed in your area of specialization and interest. If other subscribers, scholars, researchers publish a research article on a topic in your area of interest, they can inform you about their latest publication, and sometimes might provide you the link helping you to access their article, or even sometimes on your request they might share the PDF version of their work. So this electronic mailing list is immensely useful for those researchers who want to communicate with people sitting in different parts of the world who are experts of the field. You can post your comments and questions for those people and certainly expect their response, because if they've subscribed to this mailing list, it means they're serious about their work, and you can expect them to reply to your comments or questions. Even through this contact, you can get many other opportunities. So if I sum up this discussion, there are these three big sources from which research actually flows out: experiences, reading, and internet.